We're talking today about anxiety, why it happens, what we can do about it, particularly through meditation and mindfulness. And I have here with me today two of our teachers at Within Meditation, Kellie Aponte and Devon Pipars. And to start us off, Devon is going to lead us in just a brief meditation to help us settle into the present moment before we get into the conversation. So take it
Awesome.
away, Devon.
Thanks, Hannah. All right, everyone, let's take a moment to settle. Wherever you're at, you're right where you need to be. So get comfortable in your seat, even the weight out through your hips. If you're in a chair, take a moment to greet the ground. Give your toes a little wiggle, press through the bottoms of your feet. And let's take a moment just to feel the support beneath us, around us. Sinking into that support, letting your body get even heavier. And follow that sense of heaviness inward. Go ahead and close your eyes. Take your attention within. And let's just together take a few rounds of grounding, centering breath. So, starting with an exhale, empty out. Take a deep, slow inhalation through your nose. Let's fill all the way up. Pausing for a moment at the top. Feel that fullness, feel that effort, and then release it with a sigh through your mouth. And give yourself permission to soften every time we exhale, to soften through your muscles, to soften through your mind, releasing expectations, releasing ideas, plans. And again, filling up. Inhale, enjoy it. Hold for a couple seconds at the top, and then release. Deep relief on your exhale. And one last breath. Let's make it the deepest, most enjoyable and conscious breath yet. Filling up through your nose. Arrive and release. Nice. As you let go of that breath, you're soft through your body. Surrender to that support beneath you and around you. Just take this moment to confirm that you're safe and you're sound and nothing wrong is happening right now. Giving yourself a moment just to rest in being and to feel the ease that arises on its own when we rest. Take a deep, energizing inhale to bring yourself back. And let it go with an audible sigh. Slowly opening your eyes, maybe giving your body a little bit of love through some movement or a stretch. Nice, you guys. Thank you for arriving with us. We're glad to be here.
Thanks, Devon.
Absolutely.
I'd love for us to start the conversation by having each of you share a bit about your own personal journey with anxiety. Whatever you'd like to share, I know you both have struggled with this in the past, and I'd love for you to share about how anxiety showed up for you, because it shows up in so many different ways in people's lives, and how you worked with it, whether that's through mindfulness and meditation or if there are other things that you worked with as well, and where you are with it now. So, Kellie, will you start us off?
Sure. Well, my name's Kellie, um, and I have had some interesting type of interaction with anxiety for a long time now. Where I am now is not where I was years ago. I believe what contributed to my anxiety was, I come from a military family, so There was a lot of fear around getting into trouble. I constantly thought I was going to get into trouble if I did this wrong or that wrong. I had very strict parents, so I always felt that if I didn't meet their standards, I'd get infractions or punished in some way. And the other thing that contributed to my anxiety is I'm adopted and I've never met my biological parents. So just from an early age, I'd constantly have these thoughts. I'd constantly be ruminating over and over and over, like, why do I look like this? Why don't I look like the two sisters that my other parents adopted? Also, we all look different. We all have different backgrounds. They are Latino, they're Puerto Rican, and I identify as Black. I'm half white and I'm half Black. And just like with my hair, like they could never help me with my hair. They just couldn't help, or they didn't have the knowledge to educate me in things that I felt that were important to me. So I would just constantly be thinking about that. And I'm in my 30s now. When I got to my 20s, I really started to educate myself about anxiety, what I could do to help myself with anxiety. And that's what brought me to meditation. I've mentioned this before. The very first time I ever did a meditation was Dr. Joe Dispenza's meditations. They're very long and drawn out, and he carries out his voice like this. But what really helped me with his style is that obviously with anxiety for me, I'd constantly be anticipating what will happen next without even being there, because obviously I can't predict the future. I'm not in the future. And so while he draws out his voice, the longer that I meditated with his recordings, it really made me present and not try to guess what would happen next. And I feel like maybe that's one of the reasons why he draws out his voice. Um, and so I felt like my anxiety had improved significantly, maybe from the age of 23 to 28. And then obviously when COVID happened and anxiety swept the nation, I really felt that anxiety was very strong and loud in my life. I was very scared. I lived in Los Angeles by myself. All my family lives in North Carolina. I thought, I was having these catastrophic thoughts. People thought they were going to die. You go to the grocery store, there was no food. I have never experienced anything like COVID. I'm sure none of you have. I mean, the whole world. So I was like, okay, what can I do to help myself? Okay, I need to get back to, how I've been over the last few years. It's been manageable for me. And so I went to meditation school during COVID. I went to the Chopra Center. And I never thought that I would teach, but I just figured that, hey, this is what I need right now. Whether if I teach or not, I'm going to learn something here that I could help myself get through this pandemic. And here we are today. I'm currently in grad school right now for clinical psychology and mental health. And I'm just really passionate about this space. And I'm really grateful to be here. Thank you, Hannah, for having me.
Thank you, Kellie. I appreciate hearing your story. How about you, Devon?
Yeah, thank you, Kellie. It's great to get to know each other, deeply. That's what I love about these teacher conversations is we're not chit-chatting about the weather or like what we're watching. We're really getting to dig deep and know each other. And I really appreciate that. Yeah, anxiety, my constant companion. My constant companion since I was born, I believe. My mother is incredibly anxious. I know that I was being pumped full of adrenaline and cortisol as I was in her womb. And I came out this highly sensitive, very empathic. When my brother would cry, I would cry. When I saw that the climate, when I heard about the environment being, destroyed by climate change when I was a child, I was so worried and so scared. I had to implement a school-wide recycling program because I had to save the planet. You know, there was so much pressure that I was putting on my little self my whole life. You know, the treatment or the endangerment of animals, somehow I had to fix it. You know, wars that were happening, I had to write a letter to the prime minister and say, please, please, like, let's not do this, let's not participate in this. So I was plagued from as long as I can remember by fairly intense anxiety. And anxiety became my motivation, actually. It became sort of the source of my drive. I would use that anxiety, that sense of underlying dis-ease or fear, to sort of channel into my ambition or my success. I thought, I have to use this energy for something that is good. So I would use it as a motivating factor. But the truth is, while I was doing a lot of good, maybe personally and through these projects, I didn't feel well with it. That anxiety was, yes, propelling me forward, but I was suffering through that experience of constantly feeling it, not just in my thoughts, but really in my body too. So I didn't know. I had no tools. You know, my parents had never modeled how to manage that because they didn't know either. You know, so it was kind of like, okay, I got to figure this out. And I had a long period, you know, through a lot of my 20s where I was unsure of how to cope with it. And so I was using very unhealthy coping mechanisms. I was drinking a lot of alcohol to try and depress my nervous system. You know, I was smoking marijuana, trying to calm myself down. And I thought, well, I guess this is all I can do. I don't know. And then when I started meditating and practicing yoga, it was a big aha moment for me. Like, there are healthy ways that I can also support myself and take care of myself with this constant struggle. And so meditation became my new addiction, which is great. And for me, the anxiety still right next to me in the seat of my car on moving day. You know, when my whole house is in boxes and we're about to move to a state I've never even spent time in, and I don't know anybody, and my whole life is starting again. And this would have been such a ripe moment of just incredible fear and overwhelming anxiety for old Devon. And I'm so proud of the way that I've applied mindfulness and the practice, the experience in meditation to my daily life, where I'm at a point where I can say, I'm crushing this. I'm getting through this, not just with a sense of spaciousness and trust, but with a sense of natural positivity. Like, it's just part of the adventure. It's just part of the adventure. And just like, you know, when I'm on a roller coaster, I feel anxious, but I know that I'm safe. So it's kind of fun, right? And like, this is what life has become. It's like, okay, I can put my hands up. I know I'm strapped in, you know, like, it's okay. It's okay. I have these butterflies in my tummy. I can get through this. But for me, what fundamentally changed my experience with my constant anxiety is really the recognition that I am not my thoughts. I am not my emotions. I am not the state of my body, whether my body is exhausted or feeling anxious. And I also like to I've reframed anxiety for myself. I call it excess energy. I like to neutralize it because we tend to, like, sufferers of anxiety, we tend to sort of look at ourselves as less than, you know, like, there's something flawed in me. I'm broken. This is my failing. This is my weakness somehow. And I'm saying, nah, like, this, you didn't choose this. If we could choose, we wouldn't choose it, right? But we have it, and it's our sensation to manage. So recognizing for myself that, okay, this is an experience of what I like to call excess energy. What are some ways that I can support my nervous system and my body at moving this energy out, right? In a positive way, in a healthy way. So the reframing of the relationship with the experiences and my emotion and my physical self and my mind, it's given me more compassion for this condition that I constantly have. So that's my story.
Thank you, Devon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm so excited to talk about the direction you were already headed there with what do you do? What do you do to have with this constant companion?
Yeah.
And I've already heard you mention shifting your mindset.
Hmm.
But I'd love to hear from both of you, Devon and Kellie, if there are specific, and feel free to be as specific as you want, uh, reframes or techniques that you use both in meditation or more broadly in mindfulness. So when you're working with anxiety, what are some ways that you work with it? And whichever of you would like to start us off.
Go ahead, Kelly.
I guess for me, obviously, I practice meditation every morning and every evening, which is something that's a routine in my staple practice and routine. Let's say I'm in the car and I'm driving and I get a phone call or I park the car, I get an email, and I'm starting to feel anxiety. There's actually a few techniques that I've learned that have been really helpful for me. There are these polyvagal exercises, they're very simple to do. If I feel very overwhelmed, do I feel very overwhelmed all the time? Not so much. But when I do feel like I've mentioned to Hannah and Devon, I've mentioned that I was pregnant. So there's been a lot of anxiety around that. With these exercises, I sometimes just stroke behind my ears for 30 to 45 seconds. And I also like to move my eyes from side to side and hold these positions for 30 to 45 seconds. And once I start to feel a yawn, I was just getting ready to yawn. Once I start to feel the yawn coming, then I know that my vagus nerve is relaxing. And I know that, okay, I am calming down. There are some times where I just take deep breaths. I know that's very, very common to do, where you could do box breathing or any kind of breathing exercise. Um, but for the most part, I think what's really helped me manage my anxiety when it's not mindfulness and meditation practice is just kind of having the awareness of knowing what's going on in my body and how I'm feeling, and just constantly reminding myself that it's not my fault. I didn't ask for this. This is a very natural defense mechanism that's happening to our body that we've that has evolved over time. And once I first kind of like recognize that and remind myself and have the awareness of that, um, it makes me not feel um, alone. It makes me not feel as if, hey, like, why is this happening to me? I'm like, hey, this is just a natural thing that's going on right now. And I'm going to use what I have to do to manage it right now, whether if it's the polyvagal exercises that I mentioned or breathing. So yeah, that's how I would respond to that, Hannah. Devon, what do you think?
I also love manipulating my nervous system through my vagus nerve. That's clutch. Using breath work, breathing exercises is everything. I know I probably, for those of you who've taken my class a lot, I talk about it incessantly, so bear with me. But when we're breathing from our bellies, right? When we're softening enough through our abdomen to actually allow the diaphragmatic breath to connect. So you can recognize this by just even bringing your hand to your belly right now over your belly button and just softening through your stomach and allowing your breath to drop in. So we're not, we're deactivating the short, shallow stress breath that's usually up here in our chest, and we're activating that deep diaphragmatic breath that actually massages the vagus nerve and tells your brain, I'm safe. No matter what I'm thinking, I'm already starting to cultivate calm in my nervous system. So, breathing from your belly, I love regulating my breath, like just even inhaling slowly for 6 and exhaling slowly for 6, just like slower, deeper. As I'm slowing down through my breath, I'm slowing down my mind. I'm giving ease and grace to my body. So breath is a quick way. It's like your body's version of Xanax. It works. It works. I also, movement is key for me. I, again, thinking of it as excess energy, I give myself some kind of mindful movement non-negotiably every single day. Like, and even, even on the days that I'm packing house, I'm going to Pilates tonight, and there's no way I can skip Pilates because it serves me to show up in the way that I want to show up, to give the space to, you know, um, this adventure in a positive light, instead of feeling stressed and not being able to sleep or something. So movement is really key. Breathing is really key. And just reframing. I think that I liked what Kellie said about not feeling alone in it. And sometimes, because it is overwhelming and it's intense and like no one can really see it or help you with it but you, sometimes I like to access this notion of little me. So little me for me is like the child within each and every one of us, the emotional part of ourselves, the non-rational part of ourselves. I like to see myself as like, 5 or 6 years old, maybe even 4, but just like the Devon that first experienced that anxiety and had no tools to alleviate it. So I imagine sort of that when my anxiety is coming up, I imagine little me in my heart, and I just kind of reassure her, like not out loud because I don't want to be crazy, but inside myself, I'll talk to her and I'll say, "Oh, sweetie, it's okay. You're scared right now. You're feeling overwhelmed, but guess what? We can do hard things." To steal from Glennon Doyle, like we can do hard things. We can do this. You're going to be okay. We've done hard things before. We've always gotten through. Let's take a deep breath together. Let's have a stretch. Like, and just sort of treating myself with more compassion in that moment than less. Not choosing negative thoughts or criticism or judgment, like why is this coming up again? I thought I dealt with this, like I'm a meditator. Why is this happening to me? No, like more compassion, more love in that moment. So that's been really helpful for me.
Oh, that's so great. Thank you both for those very specific and personal ways. I mean, when I'm listening to
Yeah.
you talk about how you've come up with or settled on different strategies, what I'm really hearing is that there are some things that it's helpful to just do every day, like you were mentioning about the exercise, Devon, or about the meditation, Kellie. Like, I need this is like my brushing my teeth moment. Like, I know it happens every day, and that's part of what I know lays the foundation for having less anxiety in the day ahead. And then to have also these tools that you can draw on in the moment to calm yourself down. Thanks, that's really helpful. I'm also curious how you know, maybe, well, I'm not going to put in a caveat. How you know when it's anxiety, like how you recognize it as that. Devon, do you want to start us off and answer that question?
Sorry, I'm having trouble unmuting here.
That's
Okay,
okay.
yes. So it's, how do I recognize anxiety? In my body, I recognize it. For me, I get sort of a contraction or a clenching in my solar plexus. My stomach might feel a little tight or upset. I might feel sort of hyper aware of the feelings in my body in a way. My mind might start to kind of race. My breath will reflect sort of stress, like short, shallow breath. And oftentimes for me, it's disproportionate to what I know is happening, right? It's like it's often irrational for me. It's like it's not, meaning it's an inappropriate stress response for what's in front of me. It's not I'm about to be hit by a car, so of course, right? I'm experiencing that anxiety. That's the activation of your nervous system that keeps you safe. But this is kind of like an overactivation of my nervous system in a moment when I know that I'm safe. So for me, I kind of like context clues, like, okay, this is definitely me. This is arising in me. This is not like necessarily the appropriate response to this moment, but here we are, right? I'm having these sensations. How can I manage these sensations? And I like to think of it that way, because if we're managing a sensation, we are not that experience. I am the knower of the experience in this moment. And as the observer of it, I know how to use the body, use the breath, use the correct thoughts that will bring me some sense of reassurance and comfort and soothe me. So, in that moment of recognizing it, it's like, okay, this is my job now. My job is to be the manager of these sensations. My job is to calm this whole system down. So, what are some ways that I can do that? And then I just go to my tools, and it's just as Kellie said, no surprise. I take the medicine I prescribe as a teacher every single day. Like, I teach meditation, not surprisingly, because I desperately need meditation, maybe more than most people, and that's what I love. I know how effective it is. If I'm getting really, amped up, I might put myself in a timeout, like just for 2 or 3 minutes, even. I just need to take a breath. I need to go into this room by myself. I have to close my eyes. Maybe I'll lie down if there's space there to lie down, so I can just like feel really grounded and do what I need to do to bring myself back to a state of ease. So yeah, that's my answer.
Thank you, Devon. Yeah, go on, Kellie.
I guess for me, physically, what I start feeling is shortness of breath, like you mentioned, and I'm trying to think here. So it's definitely the shortness of breath, and then I start to recognize this happens every single time. I will begin avoiding people or things. I'll get quiet. It happens every single time I have anxiety. I also have the mental rumination. I'm constantly thinking. And if it's really, really bad, and it's very rare, I would say it's debilitating in the sense, like, let's say right now I'm having anxiety. What I would do is I would come back to the couch and I would just lay here. I'd have the breath that's heavy. My heart rate would be increased. And then I would start seeking reassurance. I'd start calling my mom, calling my friend, needing to constantly talk about what is happening over and over and over again to see if whatever it is that they're going to say is going to reassure me that I'm okay. I feel like those are kind of the things that happen for me when I have anxiety. And also kind of like self-punishment on the more heavier circumstances. When it comes to my anxiety, I will start punishing myself. I'll start telling myself like, hey, here you are again. Devon said, you're a meditator. Why are you here having anxiety? Like, well, you should be feeling great. You should be feeling fun. Every single day in school, I'm the only meditation teacher in my class. And some of the students, when we have our discussion boards, they're like, well, you're a meditation teacher. Why is it that you have anxiety? And why is it that you're having these experiences? And I'm like, well, I do it because it's just something that is naturally there for me. And, unfortunately, for whatever reason with my nervous system, it activates even though I'm not threatened right now. I believe I'm threatened, but I'm not. But, I'm doing my best and I'm managing it the best way for me. I'm not somebody that wants to lean in on prescription medication. That's just not one of my beliefs. I know it helps many people all over the world, but for me, I just want to use other techniques and strategies that will help me feel how I'm feeling right now. I'm calm, I'm present, I'm happy, and I'm engaged right now. So, yeah, thank you.
I think it's really, like Kellie said, it's important to point out that, like, this whole thing about you're a meditation teacher, like, well, you shouldn't have it. There is no should or shouldn't when it comes to human beings. Like, the whole realm of human emotion and human experience is available and open to us all. And it's not like being a meditation teacher sanitizes your life or like prevents you from ever feeling any negative emotions. Like, we're not robots, we're very alive. In fact, we're so alive in some ways that we're more sensitive than some other human beings. We're more sort of in tune or empathic or, perceptive on a really deep awareness level. And that can be a contributing factor to that anxiety. So in some ways, it's kind of a superpower. If you think about it, like if there's only a certain percentage of the human population that's constantly intuitively aware of potential danger or threats, that's actually good for the other 80% that might be checked out, right? So it's like, maybe we're highly sensitive people for a reason. Let's reframe this for ourselves. It's not a bad thing. It's not a shameful thing. And it's not something that, again, that you can choose, but you have all the choice in how you choose to manage it. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you both for that sense of allowing for this is just how things are showing up for me, or, and how I am working with it as a human being. Um, and I'm curious, for those of you who are here with us, would either of you like to share any questions you have through the chat, or come off of mute and ask any questions you have, or share any reflections you have from the conversation so far? Yeah, go for it.
Hi, thank you guys so much. This is so cool. And Devon, I love what you just said about it being a superpower, because I really believe that. I really believe the flip side of being anxious is also being the one person who notices the sad person in the room, or the person who's just way more tuned in. I mean, I think this is part of why life is so
Totally.
exhausting for me. I feel like I notice more than other people do.
Yeah.
And it's not a bad thing.
Mhm.
So my question for both of you would be, because I've really struggled with this a lot myself, and I've come to the conclusion through the years that anxiety is not like some one element of me that can be removed. It's like if I was a blanket, it's woven into every fiber of that blanket because it's part of my being made as a sensitive person. So it's always going to be there. Do you guys,
Mhm.
this is just going to be a lifelong thing that you have to cope with. Do you guys agree with that?
To my experience up to this point, 100%. And yet here I am on moving day, and I feel genuinely free. Like I it doesn't mean the anxiety isn't here, but there's just so much space around that experience that I feel in no way like claiming it or owning it or defined by it. It's just like, it's kind of like noticing that you're hungry. It's like, oh yeah, there's that sensation, so yes. And, it's constantly with me. I don't expect it to go away. I really believe that I'm hardwired for this, right? For the anxiety experience. And I'm okay with that now, but you can, and you will, through your practice, through figuring out, the tools that work for you personally, you can, and you will feel much more relief. Yeah. It's possible.
And I think for me, up to this point in my life, also, I feel that it's something that I have. It's something that's there. It's the constant companion that Devon mentioned. But will this be my story for the rest of my life? Who knows? Like, I can't tell the future, and that's something that I always tell myself is, don't anticipate what's happening next. Don't think what's going to happen next. Even though up to this point, that has been the experience, right? I've obviously really leaned in on the tools that I've learned, the practices that I incorporate into my every single day life. But I don't know. I guess that's how I would answer that. I don't know. Up to this point, I am that way, but I don't want to tell myself that I'll be anxious forever. And one thing about anxiety, like let's say it's the superpower, right? And it's just how we are highly perceptive and we can like sense what's happening, like we have been discussing. Um, One thing that I don't like about a diagnosis of anxiety is, what if that's just how I'm supposed to be? And I'm to learn these tools and learn these techniques to manage whatever it is that's going on with me, because it seems like there is no perfect person. I might have anxiety, but somebody else might be experiencing something else that they have to learn another set of tools to manage. I just don't think that there's this perfect person that's going to walk this earth like a robot, like you mentioned before. And yeah, I'm not sure if I will have anxiety, but up to this point, I do have it.
And also, like, what jumping on what Kelly was saying, like, we like whether someone diagnoses you or not, or this is just something you're aware of, but like the thing is, you are not your anxiety. You know, and it's like it's a miscommunication. It's just the structure of our language, right? Like we say, I'm cold, I'm hungry, you know, I'm young, I'm old, I'm anxious, but it's like, you actually are not anxious. You're aware of anxiety, but the you that is aware of that experience of anxiety is not colored or tainted by that anxiety. The witness of the anxiety is actually free from that experience. Just like my awareness is never becomes hungry. You know, it's aware of hunger. If I'm falling back to the space of the observer, then I'm already as if free from the experience I'm observing. So one of the tools that you know Hannah and I teach in some of the mindful workshops is a tool called STOP. And in the acronym STOP, it stands for stop, take a deep breath, observe, and then proceed. And I love this 4-second tool of mindfulness that you can use with your eyes open, because how does it work? It kicks us back to the observer. It kicks us back to the neutral witness of the experience. And if I'm creating a sense of space between myself as the witness and the experience that I'm aware of that isn't me, right, in my body, in my mind, and in my emotions, in that sense of space is a deep relief. And in that sense of space is the freedom to choose to react out of that experience or to respond consciously in a different way that would serve me better. So recognizing that you are not your anxiety is so important. It doesn't define you. You don't have to own it in that way. But much like, you know, we are not our pets, but we still take care of our pets and nurture them. You know, it's like, I take care of this. Like, this is something that's, you know, it's my little constant companion, and that's okay. And the other thing that Kelly said that really inspired a thought was she's mentioned a couple times, like, not allowing yourself to run ahead into the future, because a lot of anxiety is anticipation, the what if, right? And the sense of not knowing, you know, she mentioned catastrophizing, like assuming something terrible, or worrying about if the future is going to turn out the way that you want to. And so for me, just like Kelly, like a tool that I constantly use is Dev, just do today. You don't need to know what's happening tomorrow. Bring yourself back, girl. Rein it in, rein it in. Just be very, very present for this moment. And then when this moment's over, meet the next one with fresh eyes, fresh, you know, and a sense of clarity and calm, and be like, okay, what's this moment? Now I just need to throw myself into this. So it's really just one moment at a time, but just do today. Like, don't let your mind, you know, torture you through that worry, that sense of anticipating. Being present is a natural anti-anxiety, I would say, kind of technique.
Thank you so much for that question and those great responses. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to say I appreciate all of it, everything everyone's talking about so much. These are great tools. Some of them are new for me. Thank you. I've definitely used box breath sometimes when I mentioned early on that I get anxiety in driving, and sometimes even being the passenger. And recently I was with a friend on the freeway at night. She was driving. Car was quite small. I was in the back seat, so she couldn't see me closing my eyes and doing the things. I probably would have felt self-conscious had I been in the front seat, but it was really great being in a place where I could do the box breathing and close my eyes. I was with my husband once driving, and very steep. It's happened several times. Actually, this started a few years ago. I'm being the passenger in a very steep, winding road, and being able to close my eyes is very helpful. But thank you. I just really appreciate what everybody's been discussing here. Thank you.
100%. And if you guys have any tools that you use, I'd love to hear. Like Suzanne and Susan, if there's anything you want to share that works for you, or if you want to share like an instance of, you know, yeah, what you do when you experience anxiety, how do you help yourselves? Feel free.
Okay, that you might crack you up. Some years ago, I was visiting my parents in the Bay Area, and my dad wanted to go to Half Moon Bay. I don't know if everyone knows where that is. The area near where I grew up, and let's just go for a drive for a few hours. And both my parents were not that well at that time. So anyway, my dad drives us there, and then we're leaving at about 4:30, and he goes, Suzanne, why don't you drive us home? We're at the top of that, whatever, it was a pretty windy road. And I got in and I just realized I couldn't do it. And it was kind of funny because here I am, you know, the child, and here the aging, not that healthy parents. And I just said, and I knew my dad was capable of driving, you know, if he hadn't been, probably would have forced me to drive, but I just decided to punt. And I said, I'd really appreciate it if you could drive. And I felt a little guilty and silly for that. He goes, no, it's fine. It's good. I'm glad you said that. And then I got in the back seat with my mother, and then my dad drives us home. And I remember at the time thinking, gosh, did they after that talk about, God, what's up with Suzanne? But they're really nice. They're not alive anymore, but they're really nice. So it's very possible that they didn't, because they're not really that way. They weren't that way, catty, like what's up with her, but they might have in love, you know, loving way. But I remember in that situation, my solution was to punt, which I think we all can do in these situations. Like for me to say to my husband, I know you're really, I'm not being critical of your driving, but we're going fast. I would feel more comfortable if we had a bigger distance between us and the car in front of us. That happened just recently on vacation. But I wanted to also tell him that I feel safe with his driving. It's just my anxiety. So I've been bringing that up with him. It's my anxiety.
Nice.
And appreciating that he can understand it and respond to it in a good way.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, I really appreciate that one too. And I relate to that. My husband's the same way. He understands my triggers because I'm clear on my triggers. Like technology is Devon's kryptonite. Like I turn into a 3-year-old child. Like I basically just freak out and have a tantrum. I don't know how this works. I panic. I immediately panic. I go to panic immediately, which is never the correct choice, right? So, you know, when I have those triggers and I know that what they are, I'm easy saying to him, can you please help me with this, or just sit by me while I do it? Can you just sit beside me while I try and do this so that you're there if I need help? And it's like, and I love that I love the punt, the verb, because it's like, and you mentioned the sort of sense of guilt or embarrassment, but this is the thing that we have to recognize. And it's something that I had to get over too, because there was a real sense of pride in my independence, and my pride was kind of being bruised a little bit in thinking, you know, Devon, you're not a child. Like this sounds so silly, right? But when I realized that when I'm brave enough to be vulnerable with other people, especially people that I know I can trust, I'm actually receiving a gift and I'm giving a gift by I'm letting them in with more intimacy when I allow people to see me with my frailties as well as my strengths. I'm actually allowing them to get closer to me and understand me more deeply when I can admit the things that are maybe weaknesses that I have, you know, and allowing them to support me creates a greater sense of connection. So I love being totally transparent about my weaknesses, like anxiety or the things that I deal with that are harder for me than other people. I'm actually kind of, I have no sense of self-consciousness anymore, because it's like, we all have a thing. We all do. You know, yours might not be anxiety, but, you know, maybe you're terrified of public speaking, which I can do without any anxiety, right? Like it's so comfortable for me. So it's like, we all have a thing, and this is just my thing. And when I let people in it, it makes me feel more safe and more seen as well. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that, Suzanne. Punting. Yeah. Feel free to punt it.
Can I just say though, that I've had lots of experiences where people get mega annoyed with me. So that's a challenge where, and particularly when I was younger, it would be, and I kind of understand that when you're with someone who's getting really anxious for no rational reason, I think it makes other people anxious too. And that comes out as irritation. So yeah, I've had to really train myself to go, okay, he does not understand how I feel. And maybe I just get away from this person. But have you guys had experiences like that where it's embarrassing? It's
Oh,
embarrassing. Like, I can't stop this. I'm so sorry. I know it's not rational. I'm not dying, but it's just, for me, anxiety can be like a train on a track that's slightly tilted down. And when it starts to roll, I can stop it. But once it gets going, it ain't stopping. Because it's a big, heavy train and it's going to go. And I've had times where people are so annoyed with me. So I don't know. I would love to hear what you guys do in that circumstance.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because as I've gotten older, when I think back to my younger years when I would have all this anxiety, and obviously my friends could tell that I was getting anxious and they didn't really understand what was going on. They just got annoyed or thought I was a party pooper or I'm ruining all the fun. Now that I'm much older, I guess maybe the people that I associate with and my circle of friends, if I have anxiety or not, they're not getting annoyed because they're like, hey, look, I know she's not doing this on purpose. And even though this is irrational to me, it's not irrational to her and her experience. And I feel that once I kind of, not tailored, but once I started getting older, I felt like what I was going through and my anxiety wasn't really bothering the people that I made space for and that made space for me, because I just felt that they're very open-minded and they understand. And even though it's maybe irrational to them, they might have that thought, they're not allowing me to know that. I feel that way with my husband. If I am having anxiety, he knows that, okay, I'll give her space. I know she's going through her thing right now. She's going to start to avoid me, which is what I do. I go to my meditation room and I sit there and I get quiet, and he'll come up to me and he'll be nice. He doesn't get annoyed like the people from my past or any of my loved ones. They're just understanding. And whenever they're experiencing whatever it is that they go through in their process, I try to be open-minded with them also. Like, you know what? That might be irrational to me, but I'm going to have this open space and realize that I just don't understand that process, but I'm not in a place to pass judgment. I'm not in a place to have this annoyance, because I know that I have my process that other people haven't been able to understand also.
I think that I can't recall a moment when someone told me that I was annoying them. Thankfully, I didn't have to pile that on top of myself as well. And I'm sorry you've had that experience, quite frankly. But sometimes I feel like the things that we deal with, like the our burdens, our personal burdens, which is anxiety in this conversation. If other people can't sort of honor, respect, or have tolerance for that, sometimes it kind of informs me about the nature of that relationship. Like, maybe that's not, that's not someone I'm going to go on a weekend trip with, where I can't escape them. And if I need time, they won't understand or they'll be judgmental. So I think maybe I've sort of cultivated a garden of people that are more sensitive and understanding out of that. And also, I would say, Devon runs away. Like, if the anxiety gets really bad, if the train is speeding up as it goes down that slope, and I know that no one else can really help me in that moment, I retreat. And the retreat is actually good for everyone, because even if it's half an hour, I have to go away into a room and close my door and just meditate or breathe or stretch or do whatever. I'm taking care of myself, which is better for everybody, really. Even if, so it's like, I unapologetically retreat now if I need to. And I don't even have to explain it. I'll just say, hey guys, I need to take 10. I'm going to take 10. Okay. I'll see you. Give me 10. And nobody asks any questions. It's kind of, so it's like, I would just say, give yourself permission to unapologetically take what you need in those moments. Yeah. And if other people can't handle that,
Yeah,
they can leave.
that's
They're
awesome.
not your friend. Yeah.
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 Thank you all so much for all of these questions and insights. We're getting very close to the end of our time. And so I wanted us to have a couple of minutes at the end here to just say, I'm just going to say a couple of words about what I've been hearing overall, and then invite Kellie and Devon, each of you, to share a little bit about how everyone can spend more time with you through within meditation. So one of the things that I love so much about what I'm hearing is how much compassion and honoring is coming up in this conversation. Compassion for yourself, looking for those relationships that give you the compassion you need when you need it. And also honoring what's happening in the moment when that train is picking up speed, saying, okay, well then I need to go. And which to me is the key difference between suppressing the emotions, which only leads to more trouble, and truly managing them, like as you've been saying, both of you. Because managing starts with honoring, this is what's really happening, and then asking, how can I be well with this? What do I need to do to be well with this? So that's what I'm really pulling out of the wonderful stories and ideas that have come out. Thank you all for contributing to that. And I would love it if Kellie and Devon, you can share how everyone can spend more time with you. Kellie, why don't you start?
Well, I teach on Mondays. I actually was teaching a meditation for anxiety class, but now I'm focusing on self-acceptance. I really decided to make the shift in course, the shift in the change of my course when I found out I was pregnant. I'm really having to accept this new lifestyle for myself. And once I started just educating myself on self-acceptance, I really thought that that was the best thing for me to offer at this time. But I teach on Mondays at 12. And I think both of you have actually been in my class. So thank you for attending my class. And yeah, Devon, what about you?
There we go. So I teach Tuesday evenings, Unwind for Mind at 7 p.m. Pacific time. And then I teach Thursday nights. That's a 75-minute class. It's called Meet Your True Self. We start off the first 45 minutes with just discussion. It's an unrecorded space that's very safe and respectful, where we can share challenges inside and outside of the practice. Because I see life as just where the rubber meets the road with our practice. It's an extension of meditation and mindfulness. So we talk about a lot from all different perspectives in that group, and I'll often share a little reading, some philosophy behind meditation, and then a guided meditation for the last half hour. And then I also teach Open Body Light Heart on Fridays at noon, which is a mindfulness body scan and then some heart-centered awareness, just to get us out of the anxiety or the restlessness of our heads, back into the safety and the sweetness of our heart as we transition into the weekend. So yeah, there's opportunities to join. And also beyond this conversation, we have a retreat coming up in Mexico. For anyone who's watching this conversation, do check it out. It's on the Within website. We've got a video there where I go through the day-by-day itinerary for the week and I just think that's going to be epic. I think, even though it's 2 days after I moved to Minnesota, I'm going to be flying to Mexico. Anxiety. But not because I'm here right now. I'm in the present, one thing at a time. But yeah, it's just, we spent so much love and care cultivating and crafting this retreat thoughtfully. So it's going to be a beautiful mix between inward reflection and outward exploration. I'm really excited about it. Thanks so much to everyone. Kellie, it's great to spend time with you because it's so rare that we teachers actually connect. And Hannah, thank you so much for facilitating these conversations. I absolutely love them. every time we have them. And thanks, Suzanne and Susan, for joining us live. It feels more like a conversation when we're not just talking for the recording. So I
So
appreciate
true. Yes, thank you all so much for being here. And I hope that you'll join us for future teacher conversations. Next month, we're going to be talking about limiting beliefs. And we'd love to have you in the room when that happens as well. So thank you for being here and have a beautiful day.
Thanks
Thank
so
you.
much
Thanks
to
so
all
much.
4 of you. Thank you.
Guys, so
Thank you, everyone. Great.